Yeah,
Okay.
that's my best
So it's
guess.
going 25 miles an hour. What gets me, John, is we're looking at the Waymo vehicle going up the embankment
Yeah.
of greenery, right?
It
So
identified as a race car on a racetrack trying to go up the embankment like NASCAR.
wait a minute. I think it identified as a lawnmower. I think it wanted to no,
It's identified as a high-speed lawnmower. That is the best thing
I
you've
think
ever
it
said.
You're listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast with Ken Lucci of Driving Transactions and James Blain of PAX Training. Learn how you can build a thriving transportation business with real profits, repeat clients, and enterprise value. And now for your hosts, Ken and James.
Well, good afternoon, Ground Transportation Podcast audience. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Ground Transportation Podcast. I'm so blessed today to have my esteemed colleague James Blain. You know, lately we've been like Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin towards the end of their partnership, where they very rarely come out on stage together. For you kids out there, go ahead and Google Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis and you'll get it. But I'm so happy to have you on this episode. And we're going to have a little fun today because I know that you've been doing a lot of traveling. You've been doing a lot of training, a lot of sessions. You've been on stage a lot, but you've been doing a lot of training of not only chauffeurs, but CDL drivers. And today we're going to have a fun episode that's going to have some decent data. And we want you to have fun with this as much as we are. Today's episode is called Waymos Behaving Badly. And we've invited people from Waymo on the podcast, but they have turned me down.
Turn Ken down.
Right. Now, James is the big gun. We'll put him on Waymo, but they turned me down. So I don't feel compelled not to share the Waymo vehicles behaving badly. On a serious note, we will be talking about autonomous as autonomous continues to grow in the United States. And the key players in this are the biggest tech titans in the universe, and Waymo being one of them. So today we're going to go through some videos and we're going to talk about what we see here. And James is going to give us his expert commentary. And we'll intersperse a few Waymo facts and figures out there as well. So, John Tyerman, our producer, welcome and thank you for compiling all these Waymo behaving badly videos and giving credence to my idea that Waymo behaving badly would be a good episode. So why don't you curate the Waymo videos for us and tell us what we're going to see?
Sure thing, Ken. This first video is a first look at Waymo in London.
Oh, no drive. Okay.
So interesting. I did have some communication with some guys over in London, and Waymo, along with Uber, is testing the Waymo units in London. And the biggest fear is the driving on the opposite side of the road, as well as the old world European roads. Right now, they're testing.
That's no accident. That's no accident. They're in New York. They're in London. Like, the whole idea is we can make it there. We can make it work anywhere. I mean, that's just good engineering. The worst possible obstacle you can think of.
What are your thoughts, knowing how crazy London cabs are, though, about the success that they're going to have in the UK?
So as someone who's spent, and I haven't spent any time in London, but I've spent a good amount of time in Europe because I've got family in Madrid and I've driven a lot in Madrid. They drive a lot closer together. The lanes are much smaller. The cities were not built for cars. They were built for horses.
Sure.
Literally, right? You see that a little bit in, Boston and some of the older cities of the United States. You see that. I think a couple things. I think it's going to annoy the locals more than it's going to cause problems. When you think about these cities, the speeds are much lower. We're not going fast. It's not, your chances of getting in a horrible accident in the middle of a downtown suburban area where the speed limit's 25 are pretty low. That said, Waymo just hit a child. They had an accident recently where they had a kid behind an SUV. The kid jumps out in front of the Waymo. The Waymo supposedly is doing 17 miles an hour. It slams on the brakes. The impact with the child happens at 6 miles an hour. Basically knocks the kid over. The kid jumps back up and then runs to the curb. And they keep the Waymo till police come. That's an ongoing investigation. Like I said, though.
What city was that in? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head. But to my point, that is a low-speed collision, sure. Low-speed impact. So what I think we're most likely to see here is, and like I said, for everybody's record, the kid jumped back up and ran to the curb. That, I mean, they were perfectly fine. But again, low-speed impact. I think we're going to see a lot of fender bender troubles, a lot of little things, but I got to tell you, it's got some distinct advantages we don't have. When you're trying to squeeze through two cars, you have to, from inside the car, have your spatial awareness and know exactly how much room you have on each side and track.
You think you know. You think you know.
You think you know, right? And that's exactly where I was going with this. When we're dealing with drivers, we really push into them reference points, knowing your air vehicle, taking the time. The Waymo is its body is the car.
It's got the sensors. It's got the sensors, right? It can. Is it truly 360 degree?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
There you go. And I wanted to point out that isn't it something we hear about? The kid got hit by a Waymo, and then we hear about the favorite neighborhood cat got hit by a Waymo. The safety data on these is undisputable.
They're better than we are.
You cannot dispute the fact that the data coming in from the autonomous vehicle manufacturing industry they are light years safer than a human driving vehicle. So, yeah, let's see what ABC has to say here.
Are they really safe, Ken? Mm-hmm. I think these videos kind of challenge that assumption right now. So let's take a look at what ABC has to say.
Now to those self-driving cars we reported on this week here. Tonight, there's late word coming in from the company behind them, Waymo, now issuing a recall for those cars. The images we showed you, those vehicles racing past stopped school buses in Austin, Texas, for one.
Yep.
While the buses were picking up children, the stop sign out at least 19 times since the start of the school year. Waymo issuing a statement tonight saying, quote, holding the highest safety standards means recognizing when our behavior should be better.
All right.
Interesting.
What's
the solution? Things. What's the solution, James?
It's a software update. All right. So a couple things. So John, you just hit on where I was going to go a second ago before we played this video. And that's that they are best at controlled environments. I talked about that poor kid that got hit. What happened? The kid jumped out from behind an SUV. Human wouldn't have seen him. It can't see him, right? Same type of idea. I think what we see, and I don't know if this is the trend. Hopefully I'm not stealing John's thunder here. But where we tend to see Waymos and all of these get into trouble is with off-the-wall, wacky situations, right? A great example they always give is the Waymo driving into the construction zone with the guy wailing in his arm. Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? And it drives into the concrete, right? It doesn't do well with scenarios that for us are really easy. We see the guy with the hard hat and the vest on. We're going to slow down. We're going to pay attention. He's going to flag us on. The Waymo doesn't have the same sense of logic, the same sense of things. So most of these things that I tend to hear people sensationalize are there. That said, the last poll I saw was 60% of people don't trust Waymos. They don't trust self-driving cars. I don't see that sentiment changing. I will also tell you there's no replacement for a driver that knows what they're doing for taking care of it. If we go all the way back to the woman that was riding her bike and got hit, you start digging into that. Well, no, she wasn't actually riding the bike. She was walking next to the bike, pushing the bike. And I don't know. I can't remember if it was, I think that was Uber self-driving. It might have been Waymo. So I don't remember who it was. But long story short, what they found is that was actually a human failure. The software thinks it's a person, then it's a bike, then it's a raccoon, then it's a box. It's freaking out. It doesn't know what it is because you've got someone pushing a bike. The human who should have looked at this and in 2 seconds slammed the brakes was shown to be on a video. They'd been watching videos on their phone for the past 45 minutes instead of acting as the safety driver.
This is when Uber was doing their testing.
Correct.
And
this was Arizona.
That lady get killed, didn't she?
She was the first woman first person, I should say, to pass away as a result of a self-driving accident, if memory serves.
And I think if memory serves, that Uber kind of stopped after that.
Yeah, Uber's troubles go further than that, right? You've got the whole issue of, Uber had hired the engineer from Waymo.
Oh, sure.
On the way out the door, he just happens to pull a hard drive out and download
it was an accident, James.
He tripped, he fell, the hard drive plugged in, it downloaded the data. I get to Uber, I didn't realize it was in my pocket. My bad.
James, what are you trying to say? This corporate, James, accidents happen.
Yes, absolutely. And his prison sentence and everything that was associated there was.
Please. So take us to the next Waymo behaving badly.
All right, so this next Waymo behaving badly. I don't know if this
this is one of my favorites.
This is one of my favorites too.
Yeah. It doesn't know it's a car.
All right, so then James, why don't you tee this video up for our listening audience?
All right. For those of you that don't live in cities with light rails, there's several cities where the center in between your two directional lanes is specifically set aside for the light rail to go on, right? You see this in cities like San Diego. You see this in, all kinds of different cities where they've got kind of the center lane. So what's happened here is we've got a Waymo that instead of actually turning on to the lane for vehicles has turned on to the center area where the track is. I don't know if this video shows the start, but I've seen this one before. And basically what's happened is you've got a light where you cross over the light rail part. So you got to cross the tracks as part of the light, and you're supposed to cross the tracks and turn onto the lane. Well, instead of making it all the way to the lane, it's gotten confused and it's turned onto the tracks. And now it's driving down the tracks thinking that it's driving down the lane.
Can I ask
great.
you a question? Is there some sort of dysphoria going on where the Waymo car might think it wants to be a light rail transit vehicle?
I mean, look, with the way the AI is going lately, we've heard of people falling in love with ChatGPT, right? We've heard of Grok going AWOL and becoming anti-Semitic. I mean, the AI is really having a mind of their own. It might identify as a light rail train.
That's the problem. It's just a misunderstood Waymo that identifies as a light rail. Yeah. Go ahead, play the video, John.
Oh shit, the Waymo's on the track. What an idiot. Here comes a train.
You guys have got to see this.
I love the guy just gets
there was a passenger in there.
Nope. He's out.
It's not going to get hit, is it, John?
It just keeps driving down the light rail. It just keeps driving down the light rail. Like a normal driver would have just hopped that curb and got back onto the street. But it just keeps rolling down the light rail if the hazard's on.
And at this point of the video, it doesn't know what to do. It just malfunctions and just stays there.
It just freaks out.
Freaks out.
And we saw this same behavior in, I believe it was San Francisco when they had the blackouts, right? When these things freak out, they just either pull over or they'll stop in the middle of traffic. So like during the blackout, the problem was they were stopping and blocking traffic. There's an incident where you have a it was an ambulance, and the ambulance had a Waymo stopped in front of it. And then they're all right, we'll back up, we'll go around. Another Waymo freaks out behind it and boxed in the ambulance.
Yep.
That's actually one of the bigger problems that we've seen is when they freak out, they can do weird and unexpected behavior.
Well, like backing up on the light rail.
This one is backing for those who are just listening in their car.
And we can't see the train, but the train was coming, and it's on a track. It's not like it's going to turn.
Right. The Waymo is sitting on the light rail tracks. The passenger has disembarked into traffic, by the way.
I believe the correct term there is escaped. I don't know that I would call that disembarked. The passenger has escaped into traffic because going into traffic was safer than getting hit by a light rail train.
Right. They decided to literally get out of the vehicle in traffic. And now the Waymo is deciding it's got its hazards on, telling the world it's in a hazardous situation. And now it's stopped on the rail and it's going to back up. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it just throws it in reverse.
And here's the issue here. The bigger issue is that if we had 3 news stations and we didn't have social media and our phones were not a recording studio, this stuff.
Are you talking about a specific country? I feel like there's a certain country.
This period of time that I come from, that I hearken back to when life was simpler, we wouldn't know about this stuff. But in my estimation, this stuff is really going to become cannon fodder for people who are going to oppose AVs being introduced, like in New York. Okay, we all know the big issue in New York is going to be labor displacement, right?
Yes.
What are you going to do with all those taxi drivers?
All the drivers.
But, this kind of stuff doesn't help, right? This kind of stuff and Waymo does 450 trips a week at this point. 450,000 trips a week, by the way. 450,000 trips a week. Okay. Now we're going to have a stat in the upcoming AV report that talks about the Chauffeur equivalent of that. But Waymo's going to say, look, 450,000 trips. It's just only one time. The poor thing confused itself with a light rail transit train and got stuck. All right, this one's good, John. I love this one. Oh, this one's killer.
So one last thing before we jump to this next one. I think it's an important distinction, and I think what we're going to see, and this is not a technical term by any means, but I think what we're going to see the argument become is accidents, injuries, and incidents versus shenanigans, right? They're going to argue that that was it. Was that an incident? Absolutely. Was it horrible? Yeah. Is it unexpected? Yeah. But it's a little bit of hijinks and shenanigans in that they got lucky and no one got hurt.
Right.
It was not. It was likely what happened is it tracked wrong onto the road. And the other thing, and this goes right back to where we started with London, New York, Europe. These are all things that we're going to see happen, especially if that's the first time it's ever operated in a city with a light rail. I can tell you right now, the immediate thought I had there was, what a tourist. Because you see tourists doing stupid similar things when you have someone operating in an area that never has.
Very good point.
So I'm excited to see this one. Hopefully it's another cornfield.
This is a good one. It's a good one.
It's not a cornfield.
We're not taking the Waymo through the cornfield like the limo we had through the cornfield.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go back and
watch that episode. Yes, incredible. Redneck limo.
No, this is a Waymo going rogue in Echo Park. I believe it's in California. So let's take a look at this one.
I love the music. Whoa. Okay, this is an old one though. Look at the
January 25th.
No. I've got a little intel on this vehicle, by the way.
But what I'm saying, then this must be a prototype vehicle because that's not the current vehicle they're operating.
That vehicle is Zeke.
Okay.
That vehicle is okay. So for those of you who are listening, how fast do you think that Waymo was going?
Can
you play it again, John?
Let me get an instant replay. I'm not a crash scene investigator. That's probably 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's my best
guess.
guess.
It's going 25 miles an hour. What gets me, John, is we're looking at the Waymo vehicle going up the embankment of greenery, right?
It identified as a race car on a racetrack trying to go up the embankment like NASCAR.
Wait a minute. I think it identified as a lawnmower. I think it wanted to
identified as a high-speed lawnmower. That is the best thing you've ever said.
Right. I think it wanted to mow the landscaping on the side of the highway. That's why it went up the embankment. That was full up the embankment. Now that vehicle, so you know.
Do you know the story on this one, Ken?
Oh yeah. That vehicle is a Zeke. That was that's a prototype vehicle. Now that Zeke is a Chinese SUV.
Is that Waymos?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So some statistics we're going to throw in here. When they first introduced Waymo with the Jaguar SUV, the cost of each unit to retrofit it and to make it
it's
an
like
AV
$500,000, isn't it?
Well, it was 286,000. You were close. Then they got it down to 168. I remember that. 168. Okay. 168 when they started to go into mass production, but that's still a huge amount of money. Well, the Zeke, the Chinese SUV, manufactured in China. That Zeek comes out the door at about $41,000, and then they put all of the AV accoutrement on top of it.
But is that ordered directly from Wish.com, or how does that work?
No, I think you can get it on what's the Temu? You can get it on Temu. Temu, yeah. So the Zeek is $41K. The Zeek is $41K coming out of the factory. And the Zeek, if they didn't pick that stupid purple color, that the Zeek doors are like an elevator door opening and closing on the side. It's incredible.
That's exactly, well, the Zook, so Amazon
Very
Zook
similar.
has the same thing, yeah. And it's funny because
Zook versus Zeek.
If you go back, and I don't remember what they called it, but back in the day, and the reason I went, maybe that's an old prototype, is they used to have what I can only describe as a cartoon snow globe with wheels. I don't know if we can pull up a picture of that when we do editing, John. But
what's
Waymo,
the name of it?
It's the Waymo prototype. It was
the original
prototype. It looks, the Zook. I think the best description I've heard of the Zook is it looks like a toaster carriage.
Oh,
it looks like a toaster. So I think John's found it. So back in 2014, it almost looks like a little cartoon. I think the BMW Isetta kind of makes me think of it, except it doesn't have the front door. But it's like a little bubble car with like what looks like a little police light on top.
Yep.
That's kind of the ancestor of these. And I think this one looks like that. But I got to tell you, I was listening to a podcast the other day where they were talking about this. I think part of the problem with doing that is, whether it was on purpose or not, the fact that they're using Jaguars, the fact that they're using a brand that's got some cachet and known to be a nice brand, and they're using that nicer E-Pace vehicle, I think is part of what, at least for Waymo, makes it feel a little safer. I know when I saw the GM Cruise when we were at IATR, which our good friend Matt Doss runs, we were at IATR in Phoenix, Arizona, and they had the Cruise vehicle and they had the Waymo. And the Waymo felt more sophisticated, more produced. And GM's a car company, right? Google's not even a car company. Yeah. But the Cruise, just, I think it was based on one of their smaller, more economy box vehicles, and it didn't have the same cachet.
Well, and let me share with you that the Zeek, spelled Z-E-E-K, and I will get you some good factory shots of that unit. That unit goes out the door fully loaded at 41,000, and then all the AV comes on top of that. It puts it on, but it comes out the door and hits the street at about $60,000. So when you consider that every Waymo was 280 and it went down to 186, etc., this is now they're really getting to the point of being able to put these out at a unit cost that will bring the pricing down. And that poor Zeek, I mean, that Zeek that went rogue there, that was one of their prototypes out in California. That's too bad. All right, what do we have next?
All right, so Waymos are still behaving badly,
shooting, right? Oh yeah, I've seen this one. This one's great.
Bring in passengers right into the crossfire here. So we're gonna check this video out.
Oh my God! In this video taken in downtown LA, what the f*** is that Waymo doing? You can see a line of police cars blocking the road and a man lying on the ground. Enter this Waymo driverless taxi, which, while servicing riders, proceeds to take a left turn, driving right past the active police stop and officers who moments later are seen walking towards the subject with weapons drawn. Waymo telling NBC News that when its robo-taxi came across the scene, it turned into an unblocked area where other cars were also driving, and that it quickly left.
Yeah, where are the other cars? Show me one.
Safety is our highest priority, and that when we encounter unusual events like this one, we learn from them.
Of course we do.
Will it?
Good thing it wasn't wait a minute. Good thing it wasn't an ice raid in Minneapolis.
No, look, I think they actually, it wasn't Minneapolis, but I know that during some of the protests, they've literally burned these things to the ground and flipped them over.
Oh, out in Los Angeles, there's quite a few. I mean, and
you just put a cone on the hood.
Right.
That's
they
how you take it over.
They spray paint them, and they do bad things to these poor Waymo units.
I would be worried after that prototype, man. It's practicing its escapes, man. It's going to hit that embankment and just get out of there.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I would think, James, that the solution both to the school bus thing and the police and the fire and the ambulance might be something where Waymo comes out. Do you know how they have those devices on the fire trucks that turn the lights yellow, green?
Yeah, it
Okay.
sends a signal, and the little bird-looking thing that you see on the light receives it. I forget the name of the.
Wouldn't you think that Waymo could do something like that with the school buses specifically, that when that stop goes out, any Waymo that's in that general area would react properly.
All right.
And then a police car, if the police car lights are on, because you explain this to me in your only, in your geek sense that only you can do, is if I'm a police car and my lights are on, but my siren is not on, right? What do you typically do as a human driver when the lights are on behind you? You get out of the way. What do you think the Waymo is going to do in that situation?
Okay, so you've got 4 or 5 different things, and I'm going to try not to take us down a big rabbit hole, but
please don't.
There's a couple big things that have come up with Waymos in general when it comes to this. One of the hardest ones is that Waymo seems to be struggling, like a lot of AI, with human intent. We get a lot in terms of what we know based on what we've seen and what we've experienced. One of my favorite things, we were with the Bus Industry Council. We had a professor from KU, which, by the way, go Jayhawks, had come out to Florida to talk to us. And while we were out there, he puts something up on the screen and he says, "Hey, I want you guys to identify what changes from one picture to the next." And he changes his picture. We're in a room full of safety people. We're like, do it again. The whole room, nobody gets it right. He tells me, he goes, he tells the room, he goes, "Hey, we've done this with police officers. We've done this with, highway patrolmen. We've done it with all the different people that drive." And he goes, "All right, let me show you." He goes, "This building, I completely and totally removed this building in Photoshop." The lesson there was that as drivers, we are taught where the issues and what's going to occur. The reason we did not see the building disappear is we knew immediately psychologically that we were behind the wheel. And so we immediately go into driving mode.
Sure.
A missing building is not going to, in any way, shape, or form, affect how we drive, what we drive, safety, anything like that. So we're not going to see it. All right, to your point, when we're in that driving mode, when you see those lights behind you, you've got to figure out, am I getting pulled over? Am I getting out of the way? What am I doing? The best example of this is when you have heavy traffic and you see a fire truck. Yeah. And people are having to coordinate and work together and kind of squeeze. The truck's trying to go around it. Like we talked about earlier, the problem with these things is they freeze.
Yep.
So I think the other side of this again is what I was talking about shenanigans. They get lucky a lot, but it sees the police, it's slowing down, it's reacting appropriately. So look, I think a lot of this is going to be coming up with standard procedures for how it's supposed to handle it and how they want to handle it. Yep. To the school bus point, though, we've also seen technology misapplied on school buses. So there are places now where if you drive past a school bus with their lights on, you automatically get a ticket. Mm-hmm. But what we're seeing a lot of people where the school bus driver is sitting on the side of the road. He's got his 8 ways, which are running. He doesn't have a stop sign out, but he's got his flashing hazards running. And someone drives by it and gets a ticket. A lot of this stuff, even with human drivers, is an absolute just mess.
Right.
I think that's what we're dealing with. It's a mess for us. How is it ever going to get it right?
I don't believe for one second that this is going to slow down the adoption of AV. I think it's going to be great cannon fodder for the people in legislative committees to play these videos. But at the end of the day, what's going to win out is the lobbyist money. And what's going to win out is there's a huge push to get AV done in this administration. So while, I mean, we're really having fun with this, but I don't think for 1 minute this is going to slow down adoption, because the statistics and the safety is on their side. And, everybody in the world on that side of the tech, as well as the heads of the TNC's Uber, is pushing for AV.
Big time.
All right. What else you got, John? What the hell is this?
Logically, that all makes sense, Ken. And
Yes.
but I think that what we're going to find is there's going to be an emotional response from the public as well. And so that brings us to our next video here of vigilantes who, like I think you alluded to this earlier, Ken, go out and they vandalize these Waymos. So let's tune in.
Oh, the poor
We're never
Waymo.
interfering with the human driver.
Just with the robots.
Yeah, we've explained that to the police as well.
We just want the Waymos
We've
to stop
explained
using
that to the
hold on.
police.
So it's about 11:30 at night in Santa Monica at the Waymo lot.
You've got to stop honking. Stop honking. It's the middle of the night.
This is what you're trying to achieve, is the easiest way to immobilize these.
That's what we're doing tonight, yes. We're just exploring other options tonight, seeing how we can immobilize the Waymos.
Please step back.
So we're here during the day now. The Waymo lot is so stacked up. They've been in the alley, and look, the city gave them a ticket, and that is for being parked in the alley, a car being parked in the alley without a driver in it. That's a ticketable offense.
Since law enforcement's limited to parking tickets, these vigilantes say they're trying to outfox and even reason with these robotic cars.
You got to stop. Just go. Go around the other way.
Doing what they call stacking Waymos, making an effort, they say, to make their neighborhood just a little bit more peaceful.
You trying to run me over? You could just drive around the other way, dude.
He's talking to a Waymo. The eco-terrorists, that to me, when I saw that, I saw eco-terrorists. Okay, you're trying to fight change. Now,
But they're electric, Ken. They're
Correct.
saving the planet.
But what's happening in this specific neighborhood is it's noise pollution. It's all of the activity, because where this is it's a huge, I think it's one of the bigger Waymo depots in California. So it's kind of out of control to have something like that in your neighborhood. The other thing it tells me is the laws have not caught up with the Waymos, because they're giving the poor Waymo a parking ticket, and sure, Google's going to pay it, and that's not even a rounding error on their balance sheet. I mean, they'd have to get 100 million of those parking tickets for it to really make a dent.
They could pay off everybody in LA's parking tickets and not
Correct.
be worried about it.
But it's interesting to me that every technology that comes down the pike, now you have this visceral reaction. You have a visceral reaction where people are not just, oh, I would never get in one. They are literally working against them. They're trying to disable these things. So it's an interesting development. Why do they all have British accents is my question. But the guy is standing out in front of the Waymo saying, dude, you can just go around me. You can just go around me. It makes me wonder whether or not in the Waymo headquarters, whether or not they actually can have a sense or have reporting that shows the vehicles that are in peril. Maybe there's a camera and the operator is looking at it and seeing, wait a minute, that there's a human being that is trying to challenge that Waymo. Or I'd love to see what the telemetry looks like. And I'd love to see what the reporting capability looks like.
I would not
and all
ever
this data.
bank on that. I don't think we'll ever get to see that until
do
somebody
we
defects
see
from
it?
Wayphone.
Oh,
someone
are you
would
kidding?
have to defect from Waymo to be able to see the
Well,
behind the curtain.
Google's got Gemini, and Tesla's integrated their Grok into their FSD. So why wouldn't Google be able to implement Gemini and be able to talk with the passengers internally and externally?
John, have you called any kind of phone support lately and talked to the AI? I can tell you right now, I am a very, very stable, relaxed person 99% of the time. But I called the bank lately, and it's like, I'm your AI assistant. How can I help you? And I'm like, I need a new card. And it's like, you called me a what? And I'm like, great, this is gonna be fun.
Yep.
Now imagine that guy having a conversation with a car.
Yeah, agentic AI is not there yet. There's no question about it. No, it's not there yet.
We can, as we've seen in these videos, we can barely get these cars to identify as cars, right? Well, next thing you know, you pulled up a cat video. I can just totally see the Waymo being like, I'm a cat. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I want to see this one. There's a cat on the screen. Go ahead.
Is this? Please tell me this cat's not going to get hit by Waymo.
Also in the category of sparking human emotion. So yes, we do have a cat on the screen. So what's the connection to Waymo? Let's find out.
God, I hope it's
Kit
not a
Kat, a
tire.
neighborhood legend, has been killed by a Waymo.
Oh,
Now fans of the adored feline are taking to social media, demanding #justice for Kit Kat. I'll love you forever, Kit Kat, goes this post. He's so cute. Kit Kat was a fixture at Randa's Market in San Francisco.
He was our pet for the past 6 years. We loved him. He was very friendly. He loved everyone.
When did you discover that it was a Waymo that hit Kit Kat?
The customers who called us, they were telling us it was Waymo. We have an eyewitness who said the car was parked. She saw the cat underneath the car.
There's a growing memorial in front of the store. This sign says, "We miss you, the mayor of 16th Street, and don't ride Waymo."
so I'm gonna cut this off real quick because one of the things that immediately jumped out at me is they said that the cat was sleeping under the Waymo, and so the Waymo goes in a drive. Now, a couple things, right? Let's get real. Even as a human, if you hit something with your tire, like unfortunately this poor cat, you're gonna know you hit the cat.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to do anything for the cat. There was an incident, and I believe it was Cruz. I'm not sure if you can pull this up, John. I wouldn't want to show anything graphic. It's hard to watch if you actually see the real video. But there's a woman that gets she gets struck by a vehicle, and she gets thrown by that vehicle, and it throws her underneath a self-driving vehicle. And the self-driving vehicle does not register that it has, it doesn't register that she's under there. And if I remember right, it drags her quite a ways before it gets stopped.
Yeah, let's not look at that one.
No, we're not going to watch that one. But I think it brings up something, though, that is worth mentioning. And that's kind of a sensor that I don't think we'll ever be able to replicate. And that's kind of a gut sensor, right? As a driver, as a human driver, you have a sense of when, I've gotten in the car before. I'm like, something doesn't feel right. And what do? You get out. If God help you should be doing this. And we train the hell out of this for backing. You get out and look. Get out, walk around the car, make sure you're good, then get back in. That's one thing that these are not able to do. I mean, at some point, yeah, you could do tracking under the vehicle. You could do things like that. Maybe it could have honked and scared away Kit Kat. But I think part of the concern at this point, and I will bring this up because our buddy Elon, who we've invited several times, come talk to us.
We've invited him. John, have you heard back from Elon at all?
Despite my best efforts to tag him on X every few days, I haven't heard back, but I will continue to reach out to Elon. Let's get you on the podcast.
We want you on our podcast.
So our buddy Elon did cause quite a stir when he decided to get rid of LiDAR. And we touched on that when it happened. He got rid of those light emitting sensors that they use. I think this is one of the cases, and this is one of the arguments that comes up a lot, is what is enough sensors? What is enough data? What's enough knowledge? Now, that said, I think kind of the elephant in the room is that at the end of the day, human drivers have done everything we've seen and worse. And I think what will ultimately be the metrics that we're holding these guys against and are going to be the keys are how many fatalities are as a result are involving self-driving.
Sure.
How many serious accidents are as a result.
Statistics. The statistics are going to win it. They're going to win. There's no question about it.
Yep. And that's kind of the thing is I think at this point, like with all new technology, there's an element of fear. There's an element of discomfort. Look, there was no shortage of people that were vandalizing. You'd see big trucks parked in the electric charging. People hate change. We can't help it. We're very much creatures of habit.
True. But let's also look at the lessons we've learned when many people in the chauffeured space, I was an operator at the time.
Yeah.
Said, oh no, Uber is going to go out of business. We were in a highly regulated city with its own transportation regulatory authority. They used to carry guns.
Yeah.
And I said to the operators, look, I'll go along with you guys. I'll put in money to fight this, but it's not, they are going to get their way. In this case, if you look at AVs, the Autonomous Vehicle Industry Association, not-for-profit, the one focus a big focus they have is safety statistics.
Yeah.
So I honestly think the insurance lobby is going to come out for this. I believe the insurance lobby, if the statistics hold up, the insurance lobby is going to come out and say, yeah, it is much safer
to operate.
than, right.
Well, but think
so
about this though. I can't think, and I'm sure people will toss examples in the comments. Please do, but I I
we have
cannot think of a
comments.
single. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I cannot think of a single industry where the answer was we dug in our heels, we fought change, and the new technology never came. And even in industries that made some progress or held off change, eventually the change came. One of the things that I have found in looking at all kinds of different businesses, right? Being an entrepreneur myself, I listen to a great set of podcasts, I read tons of books. And the one thing that I've seen over and over and over is the ones that are change averse, the ones that are, hey, we've done it the same way, we're always going to do it, we're
They're
not
left
going to change
behind.
anything. They get left behind, they get run over, or they just peter out and die.
I'm going to give you an example of what you just said, and I'm going to forget about the region, forget about the operator. We have an operator who basically said, AVs are never going to come to my town. I'm in a fourth, fifth tier market. And I couldn't tell him. I mean, we're working on an RFP for the university system in that area. The university system in that area
Wants
wants to go
AVs.
AVs, and I'm like, you
That's
are
not
dead.
their current contract, is it?
You are no, God no. But you're dead wrong. I said you have to look for the use cases. There will be use cases pretty much everywhere. Okay, and you have to look for, but his whole mindset was, yeah, I don't have to worry about that. And I'm like, I'm not saying worry. I'm saying search for the opportunities. You're the same guy that will complain about the fact that you can't hire drivers. I mean, you have but to your point, you have to investigate. You have to be in the middle of the change, as far as I can tell. I'm reading a book. You talk about books. There's a book I'm reading about, written by the president of Intel, and it's called "Only the Paranoid Survive." And I don't like the title, but it talks about strategic inflection points in industry. And we were in the middle of a strategic inflection point. That's the entire reason we're doing this podcast. Now, I love, God forbid, the thing with the cat kind of hits a little bit too home. But the reason why we're doing these videos is, yeah, it's fun, it's entertaining, but we need to get the industry ready for the future. And we are at a strategic inflection point in the industry. We thought all of the disruption we ever would see has already taken place with Uber or Lyft. I would tell you this is 10x disruption.
Oh yeah. Well,
but I also believe it'll end up being 10x the opportunity eventually.
I think there's something really important here. So I get into the industry about 10 years ago. All right. It still amazes me to say that. It doesn't feel like it's been 10 years. But 10 years ago when I got in, everybody was still, it was kind of the tail. Uber had come in, there'd been lots of disruption. Uber was the big thing. And for me, coming in as someone from the outside, and it was obvious, I'm like, stop competing with Uber. Why are you competing with Uber? Right? Their model is not your model. You need to evolve your model. You need to lean into exactly. You need to lean into that. Now
they're fast food. You're not.
Correct. Now it's funny because over time we saw some things happen. One of the things that happened was we saw a disruption on the motorcoach industry, where you had a lot of these black car companies, a lot of these chauffeur services companies providing a higher level of service, trying to raise the bar, trying to be something different in motorcoach. And it was funny because you'd hear kind of the same grumblings on the motorcoach industry. And my thing is, okay, well, why? If that's, you got two options. You compete with them on that level. You change your service to compete with them on that level, or you figure out where you live and whether or not they're actually competition, right? Mm-hmm. Did the game change and you didn't change with it? Mm-hmm. I see that same thing happening. And I think at least the ones that are going to feel it first, if I was talking to Uber drivers right now, and I will talk to you, if you're an Uber driver right now, if you're a Lyft driver right now, you're on the clock, literally. Your job will cease to exist.
Yeah, you're definitely on the clock. And I'm not, and we'll tackle this in a completely different episode. We have an episode upcoming on the upcoming Robo Taxi Wars, so I'll just tease that for a second, but it's going to be fun to watch. But the Uber business model is changing,
Yes.
as George Bush would say, dramatically in front of their eyes. They are a tech company
with incredible strategy,
unbelievable strategy as well. And they're a tech company that prides themselves on being asset light, even though they amortize their tech like you cannot believe if you read their financial statements. But they are going to be moving into a hard asset model. If they
they already have.
Okay,
they're going to have a problem. You go to certain places and you get on, and I don't know what this looks like because I don't live in one of those markets, but there are markets where you get on a rideshare app and you order what you think is a driver, and for shorter point to point, they're teaming up with Waymo and they're teaming up with others, and it will automatically send you that.
Correct. Now they haven't developed their strategy yet because they are literally schizophrenic when it comes to AV.
Well, it's capital intensive.
They didn't have partnering. They're partnering with everybody around the globe. They are saddling up to everybody because what they don't want, because their numbers won't bear it out, because they'll have to, even though they have a fantastic balance sheet, they don't have the money to expend the capital. They don't have the money to buy all this equipment. So they're partnering. But to your point, if I'm an Uber driver right now, how long do you think I have? Obviously, let's just put it. If I'm a New York Uber driver, how much longer do you think before I'm affected?
I think there's a difference between affected and replaced. I think.
Give me both. Give me both.
Realistically, the way Waymo is going, the capital backing behind it by Google, at this point, the one. I think the best way I've heard this explained recently is you have a lot of tortoise in the hare going on. Waymo is the tortoise in this game. They have been playing this out, 10 years now? Probably longer than 10 years.
Sure.
And they've been very incremental. They've been very slow. Larry Page at Google has been pushing it. You've got a lot of financial backing, and they're playing the long game. Uber went and they pulled one of the guys from Waymo. So it was one of the guys that was developing at Waymo.
Sure.
He was in charge of all the LiDAR sensors.
Sure.
And he wanted to go to Uber because it was go fast, break things, let's move, let's ask for forgiveness later type of mentality. I think
I call it something different.
Yeah. Well, I think a couple things.
I call it, I don't give a fuck about anything but making a profit. That's what I call it. And you can bleep that out if you want.
I don't even think he cared about profit. I think he wanted the future now, and he wanted to push the boundaries, and I want to make this thing happen, and I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Well, a few guys have left Waymo and they've started their own AV startup. So I get it.
But back to the point, I think that the only wild cards we have right now are Amazon and Elon. Elon's going to Mars, right? You can say whatever you want about Elon. He's getting to Mars. He's going to figure it out.
But answer my question.
So hold on.
Replaced.
Affected or replaced. So Elon has announced that he is going to focus on AI, and he's focusing on self-driving, and that's the new focus for Tesla. I don't think, because you said New York, Elon's going to focus as heavily as New York. I think in New York, you're going to probably start to get affected in the next 2 to 5 years.
I think that's as close as you can get to an estimate.
I think 10 years.
You're done.
You're probably done, or you're really struggling, or you're one of the last holdouts. Now, we're talking about rideshare drivers. That's my prediction for rideshare drivers. I think chauffeurs, you have a different projection. I think your projection is if you can actually be a chauffeur and provide customer service and be the high touch, even when we get to fully autonomous, you probably still have a role. Because even in 10 years, I don't see Elon's robot hopping out of the trunk, right? Grabbing your stuff and throw it in the trunk, right? For those of you that don't know, that's a direct reference to the trunk monkey. Go Google it, right? It's funny. But literally, there's not going to be some little monkey that jumps out of the back and it's like, oh, here you go, and then puts everything in the trunk and then folds back up and gets in the trunk.
No,
So if
and
you're
I think we should
chauffeuring
have
up
an
longer,
episode. We should have an episode just about that, okay?
about the trunk monkey.
No, well, I love the trunk monkey, but no, about the chauffeur, about the role of the chauffeur changing, evolving. It's going to evolve. But
it has to.
But let's close this session.
Well, hold on.
The,
So you're forgetting something really important that we have to touch on here, though.
Mhm.
And that's, what about our bus guys? What about our shuttle guys?
Not in my lifetime on the motor coaches. Not in my lifetime.
I disagree. I think on the campus shuttle. What, are you going to live 6 months? Good God.
No,
You got cancer?
No, let me back up. Let me back up. Let's tee this up the right way.
How old are you, Ken?
I'm fucking old anyway.
No, all right. So hold on. Before you do that, so real quick.
Tee it up right, though.
I think that in the bus world, you've got a couple different things. You already mentioned campus shuttles.
Yeah, shuttles, I agree. Shuttles, 100%.
Airport shuttles, campus
100%.
shuttles, the MTAs. I think your metro
Last
transit
miles,
authorities,
the
they're going
last
to take
miles.
longer, right?
Yep.
Your delivery.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you guys heard, somebody in Texas already tried to shoot down a Walmart drone. That's another one worth Googling.
Didn't we see that? Couldn't we have predicted that?
Yeah,
what about that
Texas
little
shooting down drones? What
about the little delivery box down in Miami that got crushed by a train?
Got hit by the right way.
The poor little AV unit down there.
I think on the public transit side, I think the public transit is probably going to take longer because those drivers are more protected, not because they couldn't replace them, can't replace them. I think if you're a public transit and a tenured public transit driver, it's going to be a little better.
Right.
However, I'll tell you what, I was down in California and I was sitting with a driver who used to work for Greyhound when Greyhound used to do public transit work in the city of San Francisco. And he shared with me the story of how, you know, they built the Golden Gate Bridge and they were going to use toll money for this. And then the story changes and suddenly, you know, the city's taking over public transit and things can change pretty quick. And I think one of the things there's a domino set that has to fall. If you're a public transit driver, I think my prediction for you to get impacted is probably going to be 4 to 8 years. I think the safest bet right now in my mind is going to be charter driver,
motorcoach driver,
over the road. True.
That's what I meant. In my lifetime,
I think that's the safest bet at the moment.
We will never see in my lifetime an autonomous motorcoach on the highway. We won't see it. You're not going to have 56 lives in the hands of an autonomous vehicle. Now, will you need a CDL driver that's drug tested, yada yada, the whole thing? I don't know the answer to that. Okay.
I'll tell you what, I think the problem with that, and I've had this argument with a lot of people, the problem with safety drivers, and we've talked about it on the podcast, is when you're just sitting there watching the road.
Yeah. How safe can you be?
Yeah. We're humans. We get bored. Like, what's your job? I sit there and watch a robot do its job better than I can. And so my job is just to make sure that it's really better.
Answer the question, then why on the subways do they have the motormen? Those things are on a track.
Yeah.
So I will concur with you, except for the motor coach. I think the motor coach space is the safest silo to be in. Okay, but let me be clear for all you chauffeured guys out there that just heard me say that says you're going to interpret that as Ken Lucci says I should get into the motor coach business. The answer is
if you're positioned, I would argue if you're in the position,
they don't even know what the position is. They don't even know what the position is.
But and that's the distinction, right? Because I can tell you right now, I get guys all the time that call us and they're like, "Hey, we've got these great vehicles, we've got this, that. Oh, that doesn't require a CDL. There's no." Right. Do it right.
The motor coach space is a different space, and we will have I want to have another episode. I will have another episode on that because I've seen so many guys make mistakes in that space. But well, let's close out this episode. This is the first of I will say what will be many Waymo behaving badly episodes because apparently these sons of bitches go viral like you can't believe.
Waymo shenanigans.
Right, Waymo shenanigans and we will only stop. We will only stop if someone from Waymo comes on and grants us a nice interview. Elon, you're up next, big guy. So,
but by the way, Waymo, We're not trying to use that to blackmail you guys. If you
No,
guys
we're
want
not.
to come
No,
on,
there's no blackmail. Listen,
we'll probably still cover your shenanigans.
My
just so
name
you
is
know,
not-
right? Like
right,
like
my
this
name
is
is
not
not-
this is not where to keep talking smack till you come defend yourselves. I just want to
Right, this is
clarify
not-
on behalf of my
right.
co-host.
My lawyer is not Arvenati. It's not. We're not blackmailing anybody. But I just found it.
The views
I-
and representations and opinions of Ken Lucci do not represent
Right.
those of James.
I just found it rude. 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 When I sent you multiple emails, you know who you are at Waymo.
You got to
and
slide
said-
into their DMs, Ken. It's the
Right.
future.
Right, of course. That's why. But I found it rude. But you're up next, Elon and James. This has been another exciting episode of the Ground Transportation Podcast. We intersperse some fun episodes alongside the serious ones. We hope we got you thinking. There's going to be great opportunities in autonomous vehicles. The worst thing that you can do is put your head in the sand and say it's not coming and it's not going to affect me.
Yeah.
So again, great episode, James. It's terrific having you, and John.
Best part of my week.
Thank you very much for producing, and we'll see you again next week on the Ground Transportation Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about PAX training and to contact James, go to paxtraining.com. And for more information about driving transactions and to contact Ken, go to drivingtransactions.com. We'll see you next time on the Ground Transportation Podcast.